everybody. All right, standing room only. We probably violated the, where's the fire chief at? We didn't violate the number of people, did we? We're good? Well, Gary and Dick said there's seats up by them if you want to come up front. So, the cowards, that's what they call them. All right. Well, good afternoon, and it's nice to be here on a lovely day, right? But we appreciate you guys coming in today, and this is, I guess, about the fourth or fifth meeting we've had in a series of meetings since really November of last year. We knew that this path would come forward, and a lot more people are here today because obviously we're getting closer and closer to the time at which the new cities will take over services. So we're excited today. Generally what's going to transpire over the next few minutes, I'm going to give a kind of overview of where we are. I'll introduce Ruth Jones. Raise your hand, Ruth. Ruth is the interim city manager. Congratulations. She stresses, I'm the interim city manager. But so we're glad to have her here today. She's going to say a few words, and then we're going to go to a time of Q&A with you guys, because I know you have a lot of questions and concerns and how this thing is going to transpire. And obviously our job here today is try to answer your questions the best we can and tell you the truth the best we know it as of today. But as you consider what you do, we've said this from day one, you've got a great job here at Fulton County, and hopefully you have a great job at the city of South Fulton, but you do a great service for the people of South Fulton. And we're very thankful that you're here. We're thankful that you do work every day, because guess what? Your job makes a difference in this world. You help people, which is something a lot of folks in the world can't say, but you guys can. I want to give you a quick update on a couple of big ticket items. I know you probably have heard that we're working on an intergovernmental agreement. We call that an IGA between the city of South Fulton and Fulton County. This intergovernmental agreement is being worked on essentially to lay out potentially what would happen over the next 2 years. The 2-year transition period by law actually started last November, but what happens over this 2-year period and how services are paid for via the county providing it or via the city taking it over. It also involves the IGA we're going to put in there, potentially the lease arrangement we have. As y'all know, I'll give you an update on that in a little bit. But that IGA is working. We've sent a copy, a version to the city several weeks before they became a city, and then shortly after May 1st, they came back with comments, and we are looking at those comments, about to send comments back to them later today, I think, right, Patrice? Is that right? We're going to see comments later today? So, Ruth, expect comments from us today? Oh, they're already there. Okay, good. I haven't checked my email lately. You guys may have heard House Bill 131, House Bill 132. Come on, we got seats up front right here. They cost no more. You don't have to, come on, Tony. You guys do not have to stand up in the back. You don't have to sit down. There's plenty of seats. There's seats over here as well. Unless y'all just want to stand up the whole time. You may have heard House Bill 131 and 132 actually were vetoed yesterday by the governor. Those bills would have essentially allowed for a vote by Fulton County residents as a whole, not South Fulton by itself, but all of Fulton, to allow this area of what they call the Fulton Industrial District, which is basically from just north of where we are today, down south to 92, to essentially become part of the city of South Fulton, if it would have passed. But they did not. It passed General Assembly, but it's not going to make it to the November ballot because it was vetoed by the governor. So that means that the city is going to kind of regroup on what they do next, and I'll actually let Ruth talk about kind of maybe their thoughts on that. But for the time being, the section of Fulton Industrial District down in this area, not many people live here. I'm not sure, it's hardly 200 is what she says, 200 people, but tons of businesses and tons of industry is going to remain unincorporated Fulton. And in the IGA, just so you know, we're contemplating that long term, that the city of South Fulton provides the services for this area of Fulton Industrial District, and we pay for those services. Gentlemen, come on in. We got seats over here. Gary, can you help get people seated if you don't mind? Yeah, a bunch of people in the back. All right. Well, as you also know, earlier this week, I guess it was actually last Friday afternoon, we sent a letter out to 3 affected departments. Now, there are more, not all of you guys got letters, but the 3 departments that we have been notified by letter from the city of South Fulton, which is planning, code enforcement, which you know is part of police for us, but it may not be part of police in the new setup, code enforcement, and then police. That sometime between June 1st and September 1st, those 3 offices will be the first 3 to come over. And then sometime shortly thereafter, we're told that it'll be Parks and Rec and Fire sometime toward the end of the year. At least that's the thought as of we stand here today. So as far as dates go, we've been told that planning will be the first office that will shift over to the city of South Fulton. And as of us standing here today, the goal of that for the city is June 1st, coming up really in a few weeks. Now, a lot has to happen between now and June 1st, and we'll talk to you and try to answer some of those questions, and maybe Ruth can give some insight on that as well. But that's the first one, and then probably it looks like July or so for code enforcement, Wayne, your group, and then police would be sometime around September 1st. So that's kind of the general outline. Maybe September, October. We'll see where it goes. We'll let them answer. But right now, that's what we've been told. Now, as far as employment goes, those people in those 3 offices were given a letter explaining how the RIF kind of process works. We did RIF basically in a kind of a unique way for South Fulton in the hopes that we would enhance the potential benefits for the employees. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. If you've been here for less than 5 years, raise your hand. You've been here less than 5 years. No? Not many people. Anybody less than 5 years? Yeah. So you know that the current program now is that for every dollar you put in, the county matches up to 10%. With that 10% match from the county, if you quit before 5 years, you don't get but a prorated percentage of that. So in other words, if you were to put away $5,000 or $10,000 over a 5-year period, the county matched that. But in this case, you would only get 20% if you've been here a year, 40% for 2 years, 60% for 3 years, 80% for 4 years, and 100% 5. Well, the RIF process that we put in place allows you to collect all 100%, even if you've been here for a year. So that's a nice benefit. There are some other benefits as well, but that's one reason we sent that letter out, just to formally let you know where we were. That letter was sent out late Friday, and we can answer questions about that as well. Our goal here from the very beginning is to tell the truth as we know it. We want this to be a very fluid process. We want, obviously, the people, I know you guys get affected in here because that's your job, right? But the people we don't want affected are who? The citizens, right? We want them to have good service when they wake up, go to sleep one morning, wake up the next morning, right? So we want to make sure that's done very well for the public. So with that, I'll pause for a second. Ruth, if you come up and just give a couple of comments, and then what we're going to do, I'm going to orchestrate this through a kind of a collaborative process on questions and answers for you guys to work with.
Thanks, Todd. First of all, let me say it is my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon, and thank you, Dick and Todd, for the invitation to come and to listen to what your questions and issues are as best that I can answer, and to be able to prepare for you. Second of all, let me also thank you for the service that you provide. Trust me, I know. You do the work. You have provided excellent service to the residents and citizens of South Fulton, and we know that that is going to continue. My goal here this afternoon is to assure you, and I can only speak for one person, but I will try to make this transition as smooth as possible. Those of you that might not know me, for 10 years I was assistant county manager here at Fulton County. I left in 2008. And as a part of that, I had a major theme for those 10 years, and that theme was people matter. If you take care of the people will take care of you. And so I come to this interim appointment as the city manager for the city of South Fulton with that same thing, that the people matter. And if we take care of the people will take care of you. And so I just want to thank you. As Todd mentioned, we can only speak to how things are as of 2:15, because they're very fluid and they're changing. And of course, none of us have the power to vote, but we can try to provide you with the answers that you are looking for. Those questions that I do not have the answer for, we will try to work together, Todd and I, to get those answers and get them distributed to you in some mechanism in order to be able to do that. Let me tell you quickly what we've been able to do in 11 days, since we're only 11 days old. So we're really birthing this baby on a daily basis with something new. I have spoken with all of the benefit carriers as it relates to your benefits and trying to get the similar coverage. We're good. Kaiser is good. I'm still negotiating with the Blue Cross Blue Shield people. I was not pleased with the increase that they're proposing, and so I asked them to go back and look at the numbers. As it relates to Aetna and what they're doing and the services they provide with the dental and life insurance and all of that, I was not pleased with those numbers, so I've asked them to go back as well. I don't feel as though you need to be penalized because you move. You shouldn't be. And so we are continuing to work through those because I have to be prepared to present those contract agreements to the City Council on the 23rd of May in order to be ready for June 1st. The conversation with Mass Mutual has gone well. I don't see any change as it relates to Mass Mutual. They have been great. So the Mass Mutual program is probably going to be identical to the program that you currently have and that you are under and that you are used to. And that's important for those of you that may be at close to the end of your career with Fulton County, that you have continued benefit as it relates to pension and the retirement, and that coming to the city of South Fulton does not mean you're starting all over again. That was another thing that was critical to me, that you did not have to start all over again in that arrangement. And so that will be what I will be proposing to City Council on the 23rd. I am optimistic that they will accept that recommendation. I will be holding individual meetings with them so that they can understand the benefits and the implications of that. But I just wanted you to know that today as a part of my introductory comments, that we have been working on that, because I know that the benefits are very critical to individuals in making their decision. Todd, thank you so much for the opportunity. Dick, thank you for the invitation. And if you have questions while I'm here, I'll be glad to answer them. Like I say, for those that I don't, I will be able to write them down and get you an answer.
Yeah, we're going to, let me hang on a second. What we're going to do in the questions is going to be, I think we're going to try to consolidate our questions, a little bit different format this time. So we're going to gather the questions first, and then we're going to answer them one by one. So sometimes what happens is we'll get the same question out to 100 different ways, and we'll get it done one time. So let's start off. Come on, Jessica. Jessica's going to be my scribe. So who's got the first question they want to ask? What's your question, Vanjie?
Now that.
Hang on a second.
131.
Wait, hang on a second, guys.
Hello?
When we have to put the voice to the microphone, remember why? Because we're recording it so we can show it to the people who couldn't be here today. So think about the folks that couldn't be here. So think about them when you're ready to ask a question, all right?
Now that 131 and 132 have been vetoed and the bubble has been removed,
Yeah,
and FIB remains unincorporated, we
Right.
can foresee a battle ahead with regard to annexation or possible or potential annexation between the city of South Fulton and the city of Atlanta. Where will that strategy begin? How do we develop that strategy? Do we go to Roger Bruce and other folk in the state capitol, or do we have a plan, or
Okay.
is it too early yet?
all right, that's a great question. So what is our strategy on potential annexations in the FIB district? Perfect. Yes, right back here. Good question.
Hi, this are two questions.
Okay.
Okay, when will the job offers be made to us?
Okay, when are job offers be made? Good question. What's your next one?
Second question, Mass Mutual matches our contributions. Will the city match our contributions also?
Okay, well, Mass Mutual doesn't match them.
Well, the county matches our contributions for Mass Mutual that we put in.
So, yeah, will there be, the question is, from in the new city, will there be a match like what the county has? Okay, that's your question. That's good, right here?
Good afternoon, everybody. Ms. Jones stated that the benefits from Mass Mutual are 401A. She indicated that we don't have to worry about starting all over again when we go to the new city. However, what if you don't go to the, well, what if you just decide not to take your 401A to the new city and just,
Right.
cash it out? Can you start back over again in the new city? Is that gonna
Okay.
be a new 401A in the
So-
new city?
This is the question I think I want to see answered is, can you, in your 401 here,
Yes.
and then start a different 401 at the city?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think I understand your question. All right? All right, I think I know the answer to that, but I'm probably gonna let Ruth answer that question partly with us together. Yes,
Hello, everyone. Congratulations to the new people that's moving over. I wanted to know about traffic and construction, because nothing was mentioned about
Right.
this. So,
absolutely. What happens to transportation, traffic, construction? I apologize a minute ago. So that, I will tell you, because I should have said that in my opening comment, that is not, there's no date been given on transportation moving over yet. Okay? No date has been given for transportation moving over to the new city as of yet. I meant to say that in my open comments, I apologize. That's a good question. All right, next question. Let's get them all up here. Randy,
I've been asked by my inspection staff, come June 1st, how our inspection is going to be handled in the city of South
Okay.
Fulton. The current inspection staff is all private contractor staff.
all right, so how will inspections be handled in the new city? We currently do that with private contractors. All right, good? Who's next? Back here. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know if the new city of South Fulton has a public website that we can access.
Oh, does the city have a public website? I want to know the answer to that question too. Sort of. Yes, sir.
Now, you mentioned 3 different departments coming on, I think you said like June 1st.
June 1st, I mentioned, was planning. July 1st, potentially code enforcement, and then September-ish would be the police.
Now, with those 3, how will it work as far as permanent, or will it be a contract? Will they come on permanent with the new city, or will it be some type of contract?
Okay, what format would that look like? That's the question, right? Okay, what status? We'll give you an answer to that. Good question.
Yes, my question is, if you do stay and get ripped instead of taking an early retirement, will you be eligible to take the insurance with you in case of a rip still?
Okay. All right, maybe I'll repeat the question. So,
Okay.
if you retired?
If I'm eligible for early out, I'm not ready to take an early out.
Yes.
And I stay around and get ripped, will I still be eligible to take my insurance?
Yes. Will he still get his insurance if he takes his RIF at the end of the period, his last day of arrest. Yes, got you. All right, come on, we got one up here. Wayne's got a question. We'll come over here. No, get Wayne right quick, so you're over here. We're gonna get them all the same.
Good afternoon.
The last will be. Yeah.
Members of my staff to ask a question. What impact will the Georgia State Supreme Court pending ruling have on cityhood on upholding the election and annexations?
Okay, well, what, you got it, Supreme Court ruling, good, all right? Mr. Ruck?
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Thank everybody for coming out. I have a two-part question also, probably three. Again, how would the salaries affect, as far as, I guess, what, August, September time you said? The bus out process, can you go in a little bit more detail with that? Will everybody be at one time? Can it,
Okay, how will bust out checks be handled when everybody's leaving at one time? That's your question.
Yes, sir. And the third part was,
What was your first part?
oh,
Salaries. Salaries, okay.
so salaries, the bus out process, and that sick time, will that be honored for people who have a lot of time like myself accumulated?
Okay, what happens to accumulated sick leave on your last day of
We're
employment?
gonna lose it.
Well, we'll answer the question though, because a lot of folks have that question.
Being that this is an agreement going in, I thought maybe you guys could get that in that IGA.
All right, who's next? You got one right there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Easy question. Approximately how many employees will the new city house?
How many employees will the new city house? Okay, put that up there. Are you good right now? Okay. All right. Michelle, you got one back, or get one over here, okay? It doesn't matter, do it.
Thank you. Just two quick questions. First, our department depends on software that is maintained and kept on a server by Fulton County. Without that, we can't issue permits and we can't collect money. So that's a big concern I have coming in. It's for 2 weeks out. The other question really does relate, Ruth, to job offers, just because we have employees that are single mothers, people who provide for their children, grandchildren, and right now, without a guarantee or something saying that we have a job, people may be inclined to leave because they have to concern themselves with health care. So it's a big concern that the people that work for me and myself.
Great. Great. Go ahead.
In the event that an IGA is not signed, what is the legal ramification?
All right, do we have to have an IGA to keep providing services? What is the legal ramifications of not having an IGA? You got that one? Okay, good question. We have one over here. I apologize, be patient. The microphone's important because if somebody's watching. There's one on the floor? Oh, that's not supposed to. He said, don't touch that one.
I'd just like to ask, what will the hiring process be, for example,
Okay.
for the police department?
What will the hiring process look like for anybody? Police, planning, perfect. All right, right here.
I've got a question. According to the letter that was sent out for the RIF, it listed police code and all that. I'm part of the IT department assigned to the police department,
Okay.
and I got that RIF letter.
Right.
What is my RIF date? Since that wasn't the.
So you're the lone IT worker working in police, right?
I'm the lone one, and I'm the only one in
Gotcha.
IT being RIF, and doesn't the governance fall into play anywhere?
We'll have to talk to you on this separately, but we'll have to deal with that in a second. So yeah, good question though. Excellent question. All right, over here. You've already asked three now. Come on. Three's the limit. I'm just kidding. We'll get you back. Hang on a second.
As it pertains to insurance and dependent coverage, I know Ruth mentioned that she was trying to solicit the current providers. And if I moved over to the new city, would there be a gap or a start over with that coverage if my family members have pre-existing conditions?
All right, so what about pre-existing conditions when you move over on your insurance? That is an absolutely terrific question, actually. I don't know the answer to that. All right, so let's get one more up here. Let's try to answer these. If there are questions at the end, we'll come back. Yes.
Several employees within some of the departments are funded by a different funding area.
Correct.
So what's being done to address those employees?
Right. Like for instance, in police, we have folks that are assigned downtown and other fund sources. So police that are not funded by SSD. Is that a fair enough question? Yes. All right. Good. All right, so what's the first question, Jessica? Let's start answering these things.
All right, so we got a question here about Fulton Industrial and the annexation. Kind of a couple questions about annexation. The annexation strategy as a result of 131 and 132, and then also about the Supreme Court ruling on annexation.
All right, so I'm going to have Ruth join me up here on the panel. So, yeah, and Patrice, maybe on this one too, but this is, now this is, the question was, what is the strategy? Vanjie, right? What is the strategy about annexations? And we got, you know, that's, what is the strategy is a different question than what is the facts of the case. So I want to let Ruth start off by saying kind of how the city is reacting to the veto of the bill first.
The city's reaction to the veto bill of the bill is great, good, great timing. Reason being, in November, the major election is a City of Atlanta election. And so by it not being on that ballot, but being on the ballot next November when it's a gubernatorial election, you have greater participation countywide, and the chance of its passing is greater when it is countywide and not so focused on Atlanta, because individuals that are not in the city of Atlanta would not be going to the polls. So that's our reaction. We really are kind of happy.
So, Patrice, can you answer the question, can annexations occur again in unincorporated Fulton?
There were actually two questions. Good afternoon, everybody. The two questions were, what was the impact of the currently pending Supreme Court case dealing with challenges to the annexation law that are still winding their way through the court? They got another 6-7 months, so we don't even know the outcome. We haven't had any oral arguments on that case, and so those cases involve residents of this Loch Lomond neighborhood, and that they have not, the court has not ruled on that. But I want you to know that the facts of those cases does not impact the law with regard to Fulton Industrial. Fulton Industrial had a constitutional amendment prohibiting annexation, and there has been no challenge by the city of Atlanta, nor an adjudication by the Supreme Court saying whether or not that constitutional amendment is valid and whether or not it limits a city, be it city of South Fulton or city of Atlanta, for annexing property adjacent to their territory. So a challenge was made initially, not a challenge, a request was made from the court to issue a declaratory judgment saying yes, the city of Atlanta could take really the properties across the street. They bought one of where was a bank, they wanted to annex across, and they wanted to ask the court in advance for advice of whether or not you would consent. And the court said, you go do it first, we're not going to rule. They did not declare their action invalid. They just said, we're not going to tell you the answer until you do it. So I would suspect that the city of Atlanta, now that these two bills have been defeated, will start in earnest. We're trying to annex properties, but they also may approach the city of South Fulton with a compromise agreement that might help prevent any long protracted litigation. And I think that there are some, from what I've heard, some deals afoot that make sense.
All right, very, very good.
While Patrice is up here, one of the other questions about the IGA was the impact of this last time.
The statute allowing for the creation of the city of South Fulton mandated that the county provide services at cost for a period of 24 months. What both parties to the IGA discussions and agreement discussions are trying to do is to add clarity, because literally that's what the statute said, a sentence. and how you do it, how you get paid for it, what other services we might provide for them, how we work together for the transition. That's what's been flushed out in IGA. We have been negotiating in good faith, exchanging documentation, both parties. We are on the third round. It falls in their court when I hit the send button at 11 o'clock. So this hasn't been a long time. I am positively optimistic that we will enter into an agreement, and that will clarify what happens beyond what the statute mandates.
So in terms of,
Hang on a second. So we got to control the questions from the standpoint of the microphones. So if you got another one, we can ask questions. Let's ask questions on the question.
Right, it's a
Okay,
question on-
stay on the same topic.
Okay.
She's bringing one to you. Come on, Lane.
so just for a point of clarity so we can move on, in terms of the Georgia Supreme Court, 6 months from now, if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the plaintiff, those individuals from Atlanta, does that have an impact on cityhood, or will that just allow them to have a say whether or not they annex into Atlanta?
It just says they will become residents of the city of South Fulton. But they are already in Atlanta. They went to Atlanta. They appealed the decision to go to Atlanta. Right, Ms. Watkins, you were there at the court date last long. That's right. They appealed the decision of moving into Atlanta. And so if the city loses, then the residents just become residents of the city of South Fulton. You get a larger tax base. You get the mayor of the city of Atlanta's mama's tax base.
Did you sit down with that? All right. What's the next one? Hey, we got to mark these off. Let's show some progress here. Where's your pen? All right. Job offers. Let's do that one because that's kind of high. A lot of folks ask similar questions. So when will job offers be made? And I guess we ought to start with planning first, right?
The position of the city of South Fulton is that every employee that desires gets to come. You will have to fill out another application because you're working for another entity. So if you desire to come, then the position you're in is the position that you will be in when you come. Since I've got this, I'll go ahead. Salaries will not change, none of that. You will be on a 90-day probation, however. Because whenever you start new in an organization, you got a probationary period. But you stay in the exact same position and your salary does not change if you desire to come to the city of South Fulton.
Is there a timeline on when the planning staff will be offered an application?
I need to speak with your HR person so that we can try to coordinate that coming through to see that someone is
back here.
I'm going to say, where did he go? Because he was right there.
He's moving around.
So that we can coordinate that. I will not hire an HR person until the end of the week. And so I need for that person to be communicating with the HR person at the county so that we can be given the opportunity to get information to the county employees.
Okay, we got follow-up questions on this. She had one first.
I just didn't hear what you said. She just didn't hear. Right.
Okay. All right, I'll make sure I speak into this. You got to talk closer to this. I don't think I said anything worthwhile, but what did I say?
You said it made her try to look for him, so I didn't hear it.
No, she's got to talk to, she needs to talk to Ken Herman about the application process. That was said. I apologize. All right, question on this matter, right?
Yes, I know one officer already asked this question, but since it was Ms. Ruth is there, I was going to ask this. Now, I know the county with the bus stop checks have to do with that. Now, officers that are kind of having some questions are, some officers say have been here, when we switch over, you're basically starting fresh from vacation and sick. Will the city take into account, say, okay, if you're coming from the county, we're going to start you guys with 40 hours of sick and 40 hours of vacation. Because if you don't, then you'll go a whole year without not being able to get sick or being able to take vacation with your family.
All right. What you've done is jump to a question we had later. It was already on the board. But let's stick, we're going to answer that question, but do we have a question about the application process? All right, that's the question. Let's stay on that point right now. Go. She had a question right here about that. Okay, well, go ahead.
You're saying that your salaries will remain the same. Will you all also offer your years of service if you come on, if everything else will remain the same?
No, your years of service carry over if you're considering the Mass Mutual pension, the defined contribution. But other than that, you're starting over again as it relates to that particular area. So it's not like you've been with the city of South Fulton for 10 years.
All right, quiet down everybody. Go ahead.
In order for the city to retain qualified and talented individuals, how does the city plan to compensate if they're going to retain the salaries as is and if people decide to leave? How are we going to maintain a talented workforce for the police, code enforcement, or planning?
Well, the decision to stay with or to leave is an individual decision. And so if you're asking me, am I proposing any incentives in order to retain? Not right now. What I am looking at is your most recent salary structure and looking at the comparable salaries to see how we line up in comparison to. I realize particularly in police that the recruiting opportunities are vast within the Atlanta metropolitan area. And so I've got to make sure that we stay competitive. So does that help you with that answer? But I do not have clearance to offer you a bonus or an incentive in order to stay with us.
So
I don't have that authorization.
one of the questions also was there going to be some kind of meeting with, like, let's kind of focus on planning since that comes next. Is there going to be a meeting with the employees that currently sit in planning in the next week or two?
There will be a meeting. I wanted to make sure that I did things decent and in order. And so now that we're here at this meeting, Todd has given me permission to talk and meet with the department head and the staff because you are not my staff. And so I just can't impose myself. So now we have that agreement, we're working together, and I will be meeting initially with all of the department heads, whether you're transferring now or not, so that we can plan down the road. And then after the meeting with the department head, it will be the meeting with the entire staff in that area.
Okay.
Will everybody be unclassified when they come over?
Well, it's for you, but
well, you still have to maintain the exempt and non-exempt status, so that that assessment will be done based on
right.
what they currently follow.
The federal law is the federal law. No
Yeah,
matter what
you don't have any
jurisdiction
choice
you're
with
in.
that.
Okay, let's go to the next question, guys. We kind of talked about a lot of these, Ruth. They asked about benefits, and would the city also do a match of up to 10% like the county does now?
We are considering, and I'm proposing a match at a minimum, the 8%, 6%.
We do 6%.
And then you go up with the 50% of the, I've been trying to figure out all this in the last 11 days.
We do 8%, and then we do another 2%
Another
on the
2
first time.
on top of that. And so I am proposing that we keep them the same. Of course, it depends on crunching the numbers, but that will be my recommendation to council, and then they'll make their decision.
Yeah, the next question was about 401As. Does it start and stop? And it does stop, but what happens is she's offered Mass Mutual to manage the new account.
Right, so they will keep the same.
It stops, but the money will stay in the account, and then they'll just keep managing. They'll start managing it under the city, as opposed to the county, is that right?
Correct, because they're gonna only do it under one social security number, and they're gonna put it all together anyway. So, in order to be able to do that. So it's
If they
not
have to
like,
be transferred,
right,
Sharon Whitmore, CFO, it'll need to be transferred out of the county's plan into the plan that's established by the city.
so the question also was, can you take, okay. All right, so Hakeem tells me that he's having 2 parties coming up. One is next Monday, and one is next Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And he's having a Mass Mutual representative and a TIAA representative to talk about your investments, et cetera, and answer a lot of the questions. We've offered these really the weeks back in the past, but 2 more sessions are coming up, and the one on Monday is at Stonewall Hotel, and the one Tuesday is at 5440 Fulton Industrial Boulevard. And the third one party is next Friday, May 19th, and that's going to be at the auditorium of the Public Safety Training Center out at Wolf Creek. So we'll send this out in some format that you can get on email.
Okay, we have that, but I didn't get my question.
Okay.
Can
Hey,
you
hang
start
on,
over?
hang on.
Okay, can you start over?
There we go.
Can you start over?
you will not be starting over. You'll be continuing what you already have.
That's if
But you are starting,
You're starting over with another agency.
Right.
But when it comes to Mass Mutual, you won't have 2 separate accounts.
If you have $100 in your account the day you leave, you're gonna have $100 in that account the day you start your new job. It just, it's under this, but it's not under this county anymore. And it's not under the county's agreement with Mass Mutual, it'll be under the city. Is that not right, Sharon? She's shaking her head.
It's not gonna be the same day. There's gonna be a period of time where the funds have to be transitioned from the county's plan over to the city's plan. So what they're trying to say effectively is that the balance that you have in your account will be yours, and you will be able to take it with you to the city's plan. But there's going to be a window of time where that balance is still with the county, because you have to get your last regular paycheck, and then you have to get your bust out check, and contributions are taken from both of those to go into your plan, and then the balance will be available to be rolled over to the city's plan. Now, once you're on the city's payroll, your contributions that you make from your city paycheck will go into the city's plan. But at some point in time, you will be able to take your balance from the county's plan and move it over to the city's plan. Does that, that's why I was shaking my head, because
It's a longer
It's
period.
not as easy as
It's not literally a day.
it's not literally, yeah, it's not, I want to manage expectations.
Figuratively it is.
It's literally a day.
Yes. All right. Hang on a second. We got questions on this matter still, right? These are new questions, all right.
So while it's on hold, a month to 3 months, are we still accumulating until the city takes over the account?
So while your funds are in your Fulton County Mass Mutual account, it will continue to earn whatever the investments that you have selected earn. It will also continue to lose whatever the investments that you have selected lose. So no additional funds beyond the money from your last regular paycheck and your bust out check will be contributed to the Mass Mutual plan at Fulton County on your behalf, but whatever balance you have in that account will continue to earn whatever rate of return the investment options that you've selected generate.
Hello, what if I choose to stop my TIAA and Mass Mutual, cash out, and then start fresh with the city? Is that, can you stop it? Thank you.
You can leave your money in the county's plan. I mean, there's been There has been, to the best of my knowledge, we've not been contacted by Mass Mutual yet to plan this rollover process. But the county's plan is designed for you to be able to leave your funds in the county plan, or you can withdraw them. If you withdraw them prior to the age limitations coming into effect, there might be some penalties associated with that. It's your choice, absolutely.
Not recommend that. All right, so let's go, you got one more? I'm sorry.
So you mentioned, as far as the different benefits, and you mentioned Mass Mutual, as far as retirement or whatever for the 401A. I didn't hear you mention anything about the defined comp.
Because I have not had those meetings yet. I listed those that I've had.
Okay.
So, for the 457 plans, we have appointments scheduled, as well as one that you all are not using, in addition to TIA craft. Since they are kind of coming out of the government side of things with TIA craft.
All right, let's go. So let's ask about the sick leave. I think that's a pretty standard answer. Okay, the question was, and we can get Ken or Sharon answer this. If you have sick leave left on the books, the time your employment ends with the county, what happens to that sick leave, right?
We know it's gonna get gone.
Okay, but you asked me anyway, right?
Yes, of course I want this.
Well, wait a second. So let's answer that question so everybody's clear. That does not go with you, the sick leave, right?
I understand that part.
What's your follow-up then?
I need the mic, because that's my record.
Gotta be on record here. This is a humdinger of a question. This is good, right?
Again, thank you guys for coming out. All right, so again, and you know, I'm just asking for the teammates. We're all one family. We'll make this thing work.
That's right.
The process is, we said we're gonna be on probationary period. We're not gonna have any time. So anything happen, I get sick, hurt my finger, I have to go out. I don't have anything covering me, so that can count against me negative in my process with the, because I'm looking for a lieutenant position, but they can hurt my process as I go up.
She's got it down for consideration. So what do you start with? Do you start with the base or not? So that's a good question for any time you change employment, right? In new organizations, it's a good question. So, all right, right behind you. She's got a question. You got a question on this?
Will our salaries continue, or do we have to put 2 weeks in the hole again? Will the salaries continue since we're going?
Well, you'll continue to get your salary until the last paycheck in Fulton County.
New city, would there be a?
Now, I cannot answer that question. Ruth will have to answer that question. She's tied up at the moment. Hang on. We have a question. She said, so they're getting a payroll system in place, all right? So the question was, if you start work, let's say June 1st, the planning, when can they expect the first paycheck from the city? Is it a 2-week pay period, you thinking, like normal?
2 weeks.
Okay. What's the next one?
Todd, I have one more question back here. We have one more question back here.
Okay.
What is the vestment date for the new city? And do you have the option of holding your retirement with the county and starting fresh with the city?
Well, that's the question that has been asked up here. And the decision has not been made. There's a recommendation coming forth as it relates to how many years to vest in the plan, but no decision has been made.
Yeah, so the last question on the sheet here we asked earlier was, would there be a coverage gap on your insurance? And, from our standpoint, you're covered till the last day of employment, right? Is it how's your boots right now?
It actually depends on whether you leave the first or the second paycheck of the month. If the full deduction for your coverage has already come out, then you would be covered through the end of that month. Then you would become eligible for COBRA for, I believe it's 36 months. but under the COBRA insurance, you're responsible for 100% of the premium.
Now, if you take a job with the new city, then obviously you'd be covered. There's no lapse in coverage. But the question,
The same people who are coming over on the same plan.
I'm assuming the question would be if you weren't coming over, you decided to go on your own. So, all right, let's go to the next page. Daryl.
We have a question.
Okay.
Did we miss anything? One was about insurance and if you can take it if you were and sharing all this.
That's what I want to know about.
So in a reduction in force, if you meet the criteria for ancillary benefits, depending on which plan defined, whether in the defined benefit or the defined contribution plan, then you may be eligible to take ancillary benefits when you leave. But it will depend on whether or not you meet those criteria.
All right. Did we get everything on that page?
How many employees? Oh, how many employees will the new city have?
Oh, well then, I have no idea.
I don't quite understand.
The question is, how many employees will the new city have?
How many does the SSD currently have? That's how many I plan to have. But there will be more because we also have to add the administrative. So there will be an increase in the number of employees because all of the administrative functions also have to be considered in that number.
That's without transportation.
No, okay.
Until we decide
Right.
where transportation.
Transportation is not in the SSD,
But, so we'll come back to that a little bit later. Did you have a question on that?
Yes.
All right. You got it?
Ms. Jones, will our positions be open to the public or it's just for us? It won't be announced all over Fulton County website, but it's just for us,
You do
right?
not have to interview, you do not have to compete. You come in the position that you're in.
All right, Mr. Gerald, what's the first question?
The first one is on transportation.
All right, so let's talk about transportation and traffic. So, hold on a second, guys, everybody listen up. How many folks here work in transportation? All right, good, thank you. So, as of this date, that has not been determined yet. I know that Ruth and I had discussions about it. We would like to continue to provide that service as long as the city would let us provide that service and pay us for that service. So transportation is a little bit different. It's not straight out of the SSD budget, as somebody mentioned a minute ago. But as they get their budget in line and figure out what money they have, obviously the day-to-day maintenance and taking care of our roadways is one pot of money. In the IGA, we're contemplating them paying us on a monthly basis for that service. So we'll keep doing our job. Also, we're contemplating having them allow us to administer the T-SPOS funds. All right, because those projects were voted on already by the public, and we're offering to administer those T-SPOS projects as well. So we're going to have further discussions about transportation as the time comes, but right now it's undetermined. What's the next one?
Next one, how will inspections
Okay.
be handled by the new city?
All right, in planning, how will inspections be handled by the new city?
The transition commission that was appointed by the governor put out an RFP for inspection services. We received 4 responses to the RFP. They have rated those responses, and based on the recommendation from that process, then we will go forward with a contract with whichever entity at this point was successful in that process.
All right, so let's stay on that. Was a question about software down below, right?
Yeah, software.
So the software maintained, so obviously the end of June or end of May, you get the office space, but how do you run the software on the computers and all that? It's up to you in the city's name.
Well, ask Neymar, because he's been in my office all day today, so that we can start doing that and making that so that it remains smooth. Because a lot of the maintenance agreements are getting ready to expire, so we have to renew all of that and do all of that and all the license under the city's name versus under the county's name.
Okay? All right. Vandy, yes ma'am. I can sense your hand.
Does that depend upon the dates of contract renewal? Because right now, we're totally dependent on City Works and Purpose Plus.
Right.
So we like to carry it with us and use it as long as it's available before we have to switch to something else.
Well, that'll be a
Nobody
decision.
said you had to switch
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, nobody said you're switching necessarily.
Nobody said you were switching.
They would have to negotiate with City Works, all that themselves, from the city standpoint, give them their name. He says, get the new version.
Oh, the updated version?
All right, so, this is my question, somebody else asked it for me. Is there a public website?
Currently, as of 3 o'clock, no. Hopefully very soon, and we'll be able to communicate
Yeah,
that
so
to you.
the city, the transition team created a webpage. If you go on that webpage, it says the the South Fulton Transition Team website. The city of South Fulton does not have a webpage yet. They do not have email addresses yet, so some information is on that webpage, but not a whole lot. It's actually kind of hard to find the transition webpage. So we've maintained a webpage on the Fulton County site for transition information. It's got a link to the webpage I just mentioned by the transition team. It's got my name and contact information, which means everybody, I get lots of calls, Ruth. People asking me questions, looking for jobs and whatnot. But that'll be good to have public resident. All right, next question.
Permanent versus contract for transferring service.
Okay, so I think we've sort of beat around that a little bit. The question is, when the services come, will they hire outside entities to do the work? And I think I'll answer part of the question on planning.
It was employees, are they coming over permanently or on contract?
Okay, I missed the question, you're right. All right, so the IGA contemplates obviously providing service to them through not the contract, but an IGA. It's different. When a government entity provides service to another government entity, it's not through a contract like you normally think of with a business company. So we'll continue to be employees of the county, working on behalf of the county, but working under a service agreement with the city. So your paychecks will come from the county. You'll continue to get your everything by the county, but yet you'll be working obviously in the new city of South Fulton providing service.
And when they transition over as employees, they're transitioning over as permanent or temporary?
What?
Contract.
Wait, maybe I misunderstood the question again.
That's what
Oh, was it? Okay. All right. Well, somebody answered the question that really got asked besides me.
Permanent.
Okay, permanent. There you go. All right, good. Thank you. All right. Your limit's about up, Angie. Get one more.
This is it.
Okay.
Can I drop the mic? Good question. Back in the day, most of those inspectors that were county employees, that service as provided by county employees was ended. A decision was made, a budgetary decision was made to outsource jobs that were done by county employees. So I guess when you're looking at whether or not you're gonna have employees or outsource the services, it does become a moral decision as to whether or not we want to have people working for the city or outsourcing the jobs that people can do.
I was just, can I ask that?
Not sure that's your question.
I think it was a statement. All right.
Yeah.
Let's,
Yeah, and based on that statement, we will need, as a city of South Fulton, an opportunity to actually study the best method of service delivery. And if it is determined that those things that are contracted remain contracted, then that's what I'll recommend. If I feel as though it's probably more cost effective to bring that in-house as a service, then that's what I'll recommend. But it's gonna have to be studied.
All right. Do you have a question? Yes, ma'am. Okay, Wayne?
Ruth, I know you're sitting down, but I'll hand you the microphone. You don't have to move. I know that you said Matthews and TIA, you guys are in talks with them as far as being administrative retirement. So has the city made a hardline decision to say we're gonna have a 401k and not a pension? Or is that still up for discussion, whether it be a pension or just pension?
I don't know anybody in 2017 that's doing a pension.
Yeah. The pension days are gone, guys. All right, so the next question involved our friend over here in IT. We're gonna pull you aside and talk to you separate instead of the whole group, because it's a little bit different situation. If you don't mind. Is that okay?
The last one, what happens to law enforcement?
Okay, the folks that aren't funded by the SSD, so folks in security, folks at the training center, so those items are gonna remain in place for the time being. And Chief Stiles is, he was over here, he's somewhere else now. We had leave, but he's kind of working on a game plan on how we shape all of that, how that looks in the future. Because we still got a training center, we still wanna have that training center, obviously it serves way more than Fulton County Police, right? So we've got, obviously, security in the building downtown, that's gonna have to stay in place. So a lot of things that have to stay in place, so we've got to figure out a game plan for that, and keep that funded. But that's a great question.
You have police officers that are paid outside of that fund. Should we be concerned?
So police officers that are outside of the SSD fund, right. Now, did y'all get letters?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, what's that?
Because it was sent to all.
Oh, it's got sent to all police, okay. That's right, because we didn't put individual names on the letter, right? Right, so, correct, if you're outside of the SSD fund, that letter really does not apply to you.
Okay. As a police officer that works for the police department.
Right.
Can you try to clarify, because as a police officer that works for Fulton County Police Department, how can I continue to have an employment when the police department is no longer here?
That's what I'm trying to say. Chief Stiles is gonna work out a small unit, so we still need to have that, so we're working on that right now, but as far as,
The RIF letter says that it's going away. So you don't want to confuse it. Right. You don't want to confuse it.
okay.
The RIF letter said what's happening. There may be something down the road, but the RIF letter says that everybody who's in police, planning, and, well, really code enforcement first, and police, will be, the department will be RIF. And that means, it's not a funding driven, it's a function.
And can I add something to that? Because police is a couple of months away, we want to be able to look at all of those that might be grant funded and whether we bring them over on the payroll to do that. And so I have the finance individuals looking to see so that if we need to move them over under the regular budget versus a grant fund, for example, that you account for them, because otherwise you just got to go out and recruit and hire people and all of that other. So we will be looking at that, particularly those that are on grant funds.
Mr. Jones, where and what day are they holding council meetings for the new city?
The city of South Fulton has decided to do the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. We're currently in discussions with the county about the use of the South Service Center in Stonewall Tail. That's where we held the meeting just night before last. And so as a part of all of our discussions with intergovernmental agreement, but it's the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Starting at 7 o'clock, well, the work session starts at 5, the council meeting starts at 7.
Todd, there, Paul. So, the rest are 100 that are police officers.
Sorry, Heather. Those of us that are in Fund 100 of the police officers, say like I work downtown. Police department goes away, you have a small unit of police officers, keep the doors open for a while. Will I have to fight or compete against other officers who are not in Fund 100 or my position secure?
All right, so Scott's asking a good question, and in light of comments made earlier, I'm gonna park that question, and we're gonna answer it a little bit later. We'll keep having these meetings as we need to every month, and we'll give you a good answer next time, okay? All right? Yes, sir.
My question is, once New City starts, okay, we have hundreds of crimes that have occurred prior to the start of the new city. Who's investigating those? Is it going to be the city police department or those investigations, like such as homicide and all those other things? Are they going to go to some other entity to investigate?
They got to stay with the.
Todd, I can answer that.
Thank you.
No, I've already met with Chief Stiles, and we talked about that this morning, that there has got to be another conversation in reference to the case files and where cases will be going and what is being done. He's setting up a meeting about that, and we just talked about that in his office this morning. That will be determined at a later date.
10-4. All right. You got one question right here.
When does the city expect to have some concrete answers about salaries and benefits as it relates to the new job?
Well, I think she gave you concrete answers this morning. She said it's going to be the same salary, same benefits.
Well, I know as far as like Blue Cross and Blue Shield, we said we were still in talks.
Okay. My recommendation to city council will be on the 23rd of May.
That's the council meeting. All right. Mr. Anderson, why don't you come close this out here?
All right, can I get an amen? Has this been helpful too? Okay. So I just want to leave you with three things, which have actually already been said. First of all, what you've heard from both sets of leaders, county and city, is that your service is appreciated. Not just by us, but by the citizens, right? So again, don't let anything get lost as you go through this. That it really is appreciated. That's why a lot of work is going into this, a lot of conversation, and I think a lot of planning to ensure that the transition is as seamless as possible and that you're taken care of. Because that's the first thing to remember, your service is appreciated. The second thing that I hope that you see is that there is a lot of coordination and work going into planning this. So whether it's Todd that we appointed as our lead, Patrice, who's done a tremendous amount of personal work on the IGA, as well as counseling all of us on how best to approach this. Jessica and her communications team, Sharon Whitmore, we probably spent 2 to 3 hours yesterday just on the IGA, and then I want to come to Ruth. On her side, she's not just a one-man band, but she is a one-woman band, for sure. And she's been tremendously, I think, open, available, and if there ever was a straight shooter, hopefully you saw that today, she is one. So particularly when you're in a situation like this, I know it's helpful to us as her partners, but it should be confidence building to you that you can ask her a question and get an answer. If she doesn't know it, she's going to tell you she doesn't know it. If she needs to tell you a date, she's going to tell you a date. If she knows the answer, she's going to tell you the answer. And that's kind of the third thing. Third thing that we've said all along, and this was a phrase that we used long ago, at least in a previous life that I had, was we'll tell you the truth as we know it. Now what does that mean? Two things. One, we're going to tell you the truth. We're not going to tell you something that's not true. Number two, we're going to tell you as we know it. So as an example, when Ruth noticed us on which departments were going to be moving, we immediately noticed you. or the departments that were affected. So we didn't wait until today. We could have, waited and orchestrated it and all that sort of thing. But what I don't want to have happen is you get information through some other channel that we've had for several days or weeks, and then you question, why did we only get it? So as soon as we know it, we're going to tell you, right? But if you haven't heard it, assume that we don't know it, okay? Meaning that they're still being planned, still being thought through. A lot of questions today, you can tell, still have some review to be done to be finally decided. So again, just keep those three things in mind. You're appreciated, your service is appreciated. That's the most important. And that's driving everything. Number two, we're working together to make this seamless, and when she stands up and says everyone can move over, will move over at same pay and same benefit, more or less, that's probably stronger than any commitment that I've ever gotten when I've gone through one of these processes. Okay, so you could not ask for anything more than that. And then third, know that there's still more to come. So just give us the benefit of the doubt. Again, we're committing to you on film as well as in person, and any other way we know how to do it, we'll tell you the truth as we know it. Okay? All right. Again, Ruth, thank you for everything that you're doing and hard work.
All right, well, have a great afternoon, everybody.